Ladies and gentlemen, introducing PFITR, please welcome the CEO of Cruz & Associates, Rush Harding.
Hello, my name is Rush Harding, and I'm the CEO of a fixed income securities firm here in Little Rock called Cruz & Associates. We've been here in Little Rock since 1979, and we focus primarily, I would say 90% of our revenue stream comes from trafficking and underwriting fixed income securities. Several weeks ago, I met a young man that you'll meet here shortly named Jim Ketting, and with his company PFITR. And what interested me in Jim's story was that he is working on developing a simple, effective and efficient tool that can help institutional investors or high net worth individuals, any participants in the fixed income municipal bond market. One of the reasons this interested me, the primary provider of information in our industry is the most expensive cost I have in running our company. More so, what I pay for the information Jim wants to deliver to investors, what I pay for that information in my office is more than I pay for the rent. It's more than I pay for health care for my 200+ employees. And it's because they have really a monopoly on that market. So I was excited about his product. He's in the process of developing it and building it. It can be a real tool and a real asset to communities, to CFOs for cities, counties, municipal governments who have been frustrated by the opaque nature of our markets to a great extent. And if Jim can be successful in getting this tool developed, and I've sat down with him and gone over it with him, and it's very practical, very simple. I suggested a few of the things he add to it, but if he can do this, this can be a great tool that can deliver the needed information to where investors can traffic in those markets with confidence. And what helps you have confidence is being informed and having knowledge. And that's what Jim is determined to deliver. And he's going to do it in a much, much more efficient way than what's offered to the investing public at this time. So Jim, can you come out? There you go. Thank you. He's also an athlete.
Show of hands, how many people have either seen me before or this is your first time? Okay. My name is Jim Ketting. I'm the founder and CEO of PFITR. And one of the things I like to start with is the team slide. Now, people say, why do you start with that slide, Jim? Because I've had several people tell me after I give the presentation that if I would have shown that slide and talked about it first, they would have paid attention. So that's why I start with that. My background is in the institutional bond business. So I've done that for a lot of years, became really good at it, wrote a little book called Public Fund Investing for Dummies. And after doing that, we got to travel all around the country teaching these public entities and CFOs and treasurers about investing bonds. We wrote a couple of accreditation programs called the Certified Public Fund Investment Manager Program. In the last 7 years, we've trained over 700 public treasurers and CFOs. So we really got to know this well. I put together a team of guys who have worked with Thomson Reuters, Bank of America. They really know the industry well, and we've built this really, really cool product all internally. I want to give you a little story about my friend Kurt Prenzler. Kurt is a newly elected treasurer, and right after he gets elected, he has this little problem of these auditors coming out and telling him in the last 2 weeks he's lost $3.7 million in his portfolio. He said to the auditors, "Hey, it's my third day on the job. the auditors really didn't care. They wanted to know how these relatively safe investments lost 3.7%. He had about a $100 million portfolio, and it's down in a few weeks, $3.7 million. So how does that happen? It's something called interest rate risk. How many of you know what interest rate risk is? Okay, for those of you who don't, let me show you my little tool here, okay? Interest rate risk is this, okay? When the market interest rates go up, the value of the bond portfolio goes down. And when the market interest rates go down, the value of the portfolio goes up. Now, mathematically, what we can do is we can calculate how the interest rates are going to affect that portfolio. So what Kurt's predecessor did is he put them way over here, so little moves in the interest rate had big, big effects in the market. So why is that important? Well, in today's market, interest rates are really, really low. This is my beautiful assistant here. Interest rates are all-time low. They've never been that way. And so what happens is you've got all these people who've been buying bonds and mortgage-backed and notes and treasuries and all these other things, and they've never experienced a spike in the interest rate. So they keep going after more and more yield, and as they do that, guess what risk they're taking on? Interest rate risk. So there's a lot of unseen risk in these safe investments, and then there tends to be a little bit of commission bias. When I was managing brokers, I found that a lot of them would sell things that they only made the highest commission on, and sometimes those things had a lot of risk. The reliable data, as Rush talked about, is just very expensive and difficult to get, and investment decisions are based upon Tawadi. Does anyone know what Tawadi is? This is how we've always done it. So, when I talk to somebody and I say, what investment should you be putting your money into today? I said, is it a 6-month treasury? Is it a 3-year muni? Is it a 6-year agency? A lot of times they come back to me and say, well, it depends. Kind of have that deer in the headlight look, because they don't want to give me the wrong answer. So they say, well, here's how I make my decision. I got to look through the state statutes and risk analysis and all this other stuff, and then I've got all these political considerations internally on what I'm going to invest in, and then I've got to consider what my strategy is, what does the market say, external advice, and a lot of these people who don't invest a lot of times just tend to stick with the status quo. They do what they've always done, or they continue to chase the yield. So we came up with a solution, and that solution is like the Kelley Blue Book for the fixed income market. It identifies risks so they don't have to get into these risks before they make that purchase. Real pricing, transparency, it helps provide internal controls for them. So these internal controls help them justify those decisions, and we've got a way to go back and look at them. And a lot of people tell us this gives us a lot of intuitive learning. They're learning more about buying bonds as they use the tool. Now this graph here is the one that Kurt Prenzler uses now to check his investments on interest rate risk. This investment here, if somebody bought it, it was paying 2%. If interest rates went up 1%, this investment loses 7.5%. So it takes 3 years plus for them to get their money back just to get back to break even. So Kurt looks at that and says, I've got way too many of these. I don't think I'm going to buy that one right now. So market opportunity. This market opportunity, if you think of the bond market, it's $70 trillion. It's a big market. We're focusing on primarily governments, banks, and credit unions. In the governments, there's about 89,000, and because we've trained all these people, we've got an in with all of them, and we're considered to be the expert on training. Banks and credit unions, we've got a couple that we've talked to down here that are telling us, Jim, you got to talk to the regulators because they're forcing this issue right now on the interest rate risk. So, customer success stories. We have customers in about 15 different states. We have cities, counties, port authorities, water districts, sewer districts, insurance companies, hospitals, and banks. So Kurt Prenzler, back to him, he said, look, this tool saved us $30,000 in 2 months because we have this market transparency. We can do things that we weren't able to do before, and he's able to buy muni bonds and other things that he hadn't been able to buy. On the banking side, through this program, through FIS and the Venture Center, we've been introduced to a whole bunch of banks, and what's really exciting is the first bank person that I talked to, after I showed him the program, he said, I could sell this to any bank. I said, great, you want a job? So why now? Why? It's because regulators are forcing the issue. Regulators are saying, what are you doing before you make a purchase, before we have any of these problems with interest rate risk? How do we fit with our competition? Well, our competition is basically Bloomberg and Bond Edge, and those are designed for the sellers of the investments and not a lot of buyers of the investment. And so we're on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, where we're inexpensive, easy to use. They're very expensive, very difficult to use. 95% of our marketplace has nothing. They hit no terminal or nothing. So where we're at now, we have phase one. This is our bond price validation tool that's out there right now. We have customers, they're using it, they like it. We're always tweaking it, making it better. Our phase two is our objective quantification tool. And this is where we go into the more portfolio analytics to help them decide what goes next in the portfolio. And lastly is the BKC score. And that's some really fancy quantitative analytics that tells people how to make better decisions, and it has some banking integrations and GASB and FASB compliance. So our business model, we are an inside sales force, smiling and dialing. You pick up the phone, you call somebody, you give them a demo, they say, I like it, you send them a proposal, and you know what? Some of them say yes. And we have the numbers to back how many times we got to dial the phone to get that done. We have some channel partners that we're working on. Our average price for this is $18,000 a year with 5 user licenses. So it's very, very inexpensive for the market. So we're the lowest price. Our average sales cycle is about 65 days. So we've got customers. This is really odd for a startup, I know. But you build a product that people want, and you know what? They'll give you a check for it. It's a wonderful thing. So we're doing really good with this revenue, and through this accelerator program, by the time we leave Arkansas, we could be up, depending on this last sale, 1,500% in growth in annual recurring revenue and valuation of our company. Proforma, there's our hockey stick curve. And one of the things that's nice about our Proforma is we have data behind it to support how this growth is going to happen. So I don't think it's conservative, I think it's spot on. And lastly, we're raising we've raised 1.9 million. We've already raised $756,000 from 10 different investors, 6 of which are institutional. And we're looking at to primarily scale sales and marketing. So that's where most of our money is going to go to. So we are the Kelley Blue Book of fixed income investing. And I could go on for hours, but there's a bar back there that's probably calling your name, and they said, Jim, get done quick. So thank you very much. I appreciate your attention.